Death Stranding 2 is almost upon us. And with the long-awaited sequel's launch coming up, excitement among fans of auteur Hideo Kojima's works is continuing to mount. With the game's release not long away, after having dived deep into the world of the upcoming PS5 exclusive, here we're going to go over a few beginner's tips and tricks that you should keep in mind about Death Stranding 2 on the beach. Some that will be familiar to fans of the first game, and others that won't be. Planning routes. Planning routes is one of the central aspects of Death Stranding 2's core gameplay loop, same as its predecessor, which means it's something that you'll be doing quite a lot of. Anytime you're about to head out on a mission, the game will give you the opportunity to plan out your route, and you should definitely take that opportunity, especially as you get deeper into the game and start encountering more difficult missions. Figuring out what challenges you're going to face in terms of terrain, weather, BT, bandits, and more, and planning your routes and journeys based on those factors is key to the Death Stranding 2 experience. Navigating terrain. Making your way around Death Stranding 2's world is your central obstacle in the game, which means you'll be once again spending your time studying and analyzing the terrain around you and figuring out just how to deal with it. That won't always require too much thought, obviously, because sometimes it will just be as simple as, well, making your way across a chasm or a river. But often you'll find yourself in challenging areas where properly studying your surroundings and figuring out how best to move will be key to making progress. Auto-arrange. Arranging your cargo and keeping an eye on how much weight you're carrying is a central part of planning, and of course, actually executing your trips in Death Stranding 2. But though it's often recommended to do the sorting and managing of the cargo that you're carrying manually, especially if you're carrying a lot of stuff, sometimes it really is best to just pick the easy option. Same as the first game, Death Stranding 2 offers an auto-arrange option that does exactly what its name suggests, allowing you to automatically and instantly sort all of the cargo that you're carrying in the most efficient manner possible. Lost cargo. While you're making deliveries in Death Stranding 2, you'll often also come across lost pieces of cargo scattered throughout the open world, some of which will have been dropped by other players, and these are side activities you ideally shouldn't be ignoring. Pick up lost pieces of cargo and deliver them to their originally intended destinations for additional rewards. Cryptobytes and chiral crystals. These are easily ignorable given that they're fairly abundant and that they're found quite easily in the open world. But cryptobytes, aka those floating worms, and chiral crystals that you spot around the open world are actually quite useful. For instance, collect enough of the chiral crystals and you reduce the weight of the cargo that you're carrying. Though marginal at first, it definitely adds up. Upgrading structures. You'll be creating plenty of structures throughout Death Stranding 2's open world maps of Mexico and Australia with materials gathered across your trial, but simply creating them is just the first step of the process, if you're doing it right at least. From postal boxes to timefall shelters to bridges and more, the structures that you'll build will be upgradable in a variety of ways and will afford a variety of different advantages, which means structure upgrades is one part of the experience you definitely shouldn't be ignoring. Dealing with the weather. Extreme weather and environmental hazards are among Death Stranding 2's biggest new additions, and they do impact the gameplay in some really interesting ways. Timefall obviously makes a return from the first game, but you'll also be dealing with things such as sandstorms, earthquakes, avalanches, wildfires, and more. Keeping an eye on different environmental effects, identifying their specific threats and challenges, from harsh winds to changing terrain pushing you off of your planned path, and figuring out how to deal with them will become increasingly important as you make your way forward. Private room facilities. You'll often find yourself in private rooms in the many cities that you'll be delivering to in Death Stranding 2. And though their primary purpose is obviously to be a safe haven and a rest spot for travelers, i.e. the players, there's more to them than that. From VR training to improve your weapon skills to weapons against BTs, again, the same as the first game, There are facilities available in the private rooms that are well worth making use of. Storage. Inventory management is almost literally the name of the game in Death Stranding 2, which means figuring out how best to store all of your equipment is another major part of the experience. Anytime you come across any terminal where you have the opportunity to stow your equipment, it's a good idea to do so, because carrying more than you need is a good way of losing your balance and falling, which in turn is a good way of damaging what you've got on you. Container repair spray. And speaking of damage to your cargo, Death Stranding 2 does obviously give players a way to repair said damage similar to its predecessor. One of those, and one of the earliest ones you get your hands on, is the container repair spray, which does exactly what it says on the tin. You can point it at the cargo that you're carrying to repair damage incurred by physical impact, hits, timefall, and more. Scanning. This is something else that those who played the first game will be familiar with, but the scanner mounted on your shoulder, known as the auteur deck in the world of Death Stranding, is an incredibly useful tool that you should be using as often as you can. How difficult a specific patch of terrain might be to traverse, any nearby lost cargo or pieces of equipment lying around, BTs in the vicinity, well, scanning helps uncover quite a bit, so keep doing it. Auteur deck at night. As useful as the auteur deck can be, it's also recommended that you pay attention to when and where you're using it. At night, for instance, bandits and enemies will be able to spot the auteur deck's light from a distance, which means sneaking around is going to be a lot more challenging. Make sure you've scanned and tagged enemies in your vicinity before you go turning on your auteur deck within an enemy's eyeline. Corpus. Final Fantasy XVI, for all of its divisiveness, did win a great many people over with its active time lore mechanic. We're glad to see it being adopted by other games. Death Stranding 2 does so as well, with a feature known as Corpus, serving as a codex that you can contextually pull up to learn more about things being referred to in the game, which, for a Hideo Kojima game, is immediately necessary. Holding your breath. From BTs to human bandits, you'll be running into no shortage of your foes across your time with Death Stranding 2. And though combat is a much bigger deal here than in the first game, stealth is also much more expanded. And whether it's BTs that you're trying to sneak past or human enemies that you're trying to stealth take down, holding your breath while you do so becomes increasingly important as you get deeper into the experience. Exploration. And we can't emphasize this enough. Explore, explore, and explore. Death Stranding 2 features a vast open world brimming with secrets, just like the first game. Exploration isn't just encouraged, it is rewarded. Take the time to learn the systems, experiment with tools, and push beyond the main path. If you do, you'll find that the game never really runs out of things to offer. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.